The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the small town of Willow Creek. Despite its beauty, an overwhelming darkness loomed over Sarah. Just days ago, her world had been filled with laughter and love, but now it felt as if all joy had been stripped away. The funerals were held back-to-back, each one a heavy blow that left her heart feeling like a stone. In a matter of days, she had lost both of her parents, two guiding stars in her life. Standing by their graves, she felt like an island surrounded by vast waters of sorrow. Friends and neighbors offered their condolences, but their sympathetic looks only deepened her loneliness. She buried her hope alongside her parents, unsure of how to move forward. Even at 18, the reality of being orphaned was far too heavy for her fragile spirit. With no family left to lean on and no money to speak of, Sarah's future looked bleak. After the last rites, she wandered the empty streets of Willow Creek, lost in thought. Her clothing hung loosely on her thin frame, she hadn't eaten properly in days and felt the pangs of hunger gnawing at her stomach. As twilight descended upon the town, she sat down on a weathered bench outside the general store, weary from the weight of grief. It was at that moment when everything changed. A rumble broke through the silence as a carriage rolled into view. The luxurious vehicle gleamed under the fading light. Atop it sat a striking man dressed in rugged Western attire adorned with gold accents, a cowboy who seemed to radiate both confidence and charm. Dalton Reed spotted Sarah immediately. He could see something in her eyes that spoke volumes, courage buried beneath layers of pain. Without hesitation, he halted his carriage and stepped down with purpose. As he approached, Sarah looked up, surprised by his interest in her sorrowful state. "Hey there," he said warmly, "what brings such a brave soul like you to sit alone in the fading light?" After their brief encounter, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of Dalton's intense gaze lingering on her. Yet, as the day drew to a close and twilight settled over Willow Creek, the weight of her loss pulled her back into reality. She stood up from the bench, wiped her tears away, and took a deep breath. The streets felt foreign to her now, filled with memories that only deepened her loneliness. With no money or clear direction, she wandered through the familiar but now painfully empty town. Stores adorned with colorful signs reminded her of happier days when she would frolic through the streets with friends. But today she only felt adrift, every step a reminder of what she had lost. As Sarah passed by Mrs. Jenkins' bakery, the warm aroma of bread wafted through the air, tempting her senses. But hunger gnawed at her stomach like a cruel tease. She didn't have even a penny to spare for a loaf. Instead, she smiled weakly at Mrs. Jenkins as she peeked out from behind the counter, hoping for a kind word or gesture. "Good evening, Sarah," Mrs. Jenkins called softly. "Are you doing all right?" "Just thinking," Sarah replied quietly before moving on again, forcing herself to keep walking despite the warmth in her chest reminding her of what once was. As she continued down the street, Sarah noticed how people whispered as they passed by, curious glances thrown in her direction mixed with pity and concern. This attention felt suffocating. It was as if everyone knew about her loss and were judging her for how she handled it. She found herself at the edge of town where wildflowers grew and tall grass swayed in the gentle breeze. It was quieter here, and for a moment she let herself breathe deeply and imagine life beyond grief. But doubts crept in. Could she truly find a way forward? How would she survive without family or money? In this quiet moment of reflection, Sarah clenched her fists at her sides and vowed to discover what lay ahead, not just surviving but truly living again. The path wouldn't be easy, but perhaps hope awaited beyond today's shadows. As the sun began to set, casting a vibrant orange glow over Willow Creek, Sarah found herself sitting by the roadside, feeling the weight of her sorrow. The earth beneath her felt cool and solid, a stark contrast to the tumult of emotions swirling within her. She hugged her knees tightly to her chest, lost in thoughts about what could have been if her parents were still alive. Suddenly, the soft clip-clop of hooves broke through her reverie. A luxurious carriage rolled into view, drawn by gleaming horses that pranced gracefully along the dusty road. Sarah looked up, drawn by the sight of the elegant vehicle shining in the fading light. Atop it sat a strikingly handsome cowboy with broad shoulders, his hat tilted just so that it partially shaded his intense eyes. Dalton Reed, known in town as one of the wealthiest ranchers around, seemed like a living embodiment of rugged charm. His golden belt sparkled against his dark clothing, and he radiated an air of confidence that made him stand out even more. As he approached, something in Sarah's heart stirred, an unfamiliar flicker of hope mixed with curiosity. His gaze fell upon her, and for a moment, everything else faded away. Dalton's eyes softened as he took in her worn appearance, and the sadness etched across her face. He didn't see just a girl alone on the roadside, he saw a spirit that captivated him. Without hesitation, he reined in the carriage and hopped down with agile grace. "Well, hello there," he called out warmly. "What brings you to the spot on such a beautiful evening?" Startled by his sudden presence but intrigued by his warm tone, Sarah hesitated before responding. "Just taking a moment to think," she said softly. Dalton's smile widened as if her words invited him closer. "Thinking is good. Sometimes it leads us to unexpected paths." He took a step forward, extending his hand toward her. In that moment, Sarah felt an undeniable connection, the warmth of understanding from someone who recognized pain but offered kindness instead of judgment. "Why don't you join me here? I think you deserve a little adventure." His voice held a promise that made her heart race, igniting a spark of longing she thought had been extinguished forever. Dalton stood before Sarah, his gaze piercing yet kind, and for a moment the world felt as if it had paused around them. He noticed the way her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a reflection of her profound loss, but also a sign of resilience simmering just beneath the surface. While others may have looked past her pain, Dalton saw something remarkable in her, an inner strength that was both captivating and rare. "Are you all right?" he asked gently, taking a step closer. The concern in his voice softened the sharp edges of her grief. She looked up, meeting his gaze, and felt an instant connection, a silent understanding that transcended words. "I'm okay," Sarah replied, though deep down she knew it was a lie. "Just trying to sort things out." Dalton studied her closely, impressed by the calmness in her voice and the determination etched on her face. He remembered how easy it was to retreat into despair, yet here she was, sitting by the roadside with an air of quiet bravery. "You have a strong spirit," he remarked, tilting his head slightly as if trying to view her from a different angle. "Not many would be able to sit alone at such a time and still hold their head high." Sarah felt a flush creep into her cheeks at his observation. It was rare for someone to notice her struggle instead of simply feeling pity. In his presence, her sorrow felt a little lighter. "It's just hard," she admitted, looking away for a moment as the weight of reality threatened to pull her back under. "I can only imagine," he said, nodding in understanding. "But sometimes tough times lead us to better paths we never expected." His voice held an encouraging tone that stirred something new within her, hope flickering into life like a lone flame in the darkness. Dalton took another step forward, extending his hand toward her once more. "Why don't you come with me? I promise it'll be an adventure unlike any other." His invitation hung in the air, tempting and tantalizing, offering her a chance not just to escape her sadness but to rediscover joy. With a spark of spontaneity igniting in his chest, Dalton reached for Sarah's hand and gently pulled her up from the roadside. "Come with me," he urged, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. His eyes glinted mischievously as a thought crossed his mind. "You know what? You're my wife now." Before Sarah could fully comprehend his words, Dalton lifted her into the carriage, cradling her as if she were the most precious treasure. The sudden motion left her breathless, a mix of surprise and disbelief coursing through her veins. It all felt surreal, like stepping into a dream where the impossible became reality. "All aboard," he called out playfully to the horses, who whinnied in response as he settled her beside him. In that moment, the world around them faded away. The carriage rolled forward, the rhythmic sound of hooves echoing against the ground like a heartbeat. As they ventured down the dusty road, Sarah's heart raced. What had just happened? A part of her wanted to object, feeling unworthy of such a bold declaration, while another part felt exhilarated by Dalton's impulsiveness. She caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of the carriage window, an orphan girl now transformed into a wife in an unexpected twist of fate. Word spread quickly in Willow Creek about the dashing cowboy who had lifted a girl from despair and claimed her for his own. As they rode through town, curious eyes followed them. Whispers began to fill the air like wildfire among the townsfolk. Who is she? Where did she come from? Is it true? People gathered on porches and leaned out of windows, eager to catch sight of the unlikely couple. Some looked on with envy, others with skepticism, but all were captivated by the gossip swirling around them. Sarah couldn't help but feel both flattered and overwhelmed by the attention, the weight of their judgment hanging heavily on her heart. Yet, in that moment, sitting next to Dalton with the wind tousling her hair, she felt something shift within her. For once, it wasn't just about loss. It was about possibilities. Perhaps Dalton's impulsive choice was not just an act of folly, it was a chance to redefine herself amidst all the chaos life had thrown at her. Maybe this adventure was just what she needed to begin anew. As Dalton and Sarah rode through Willow Creek, the news of their unexpected union spread like wildfire. The small town, known for its tight-knit community, buzzed with curiosity and whispers. "Did you hear? Dalton Reed has taken a wife," some exclaimed with excitement while others exchanged glances filled with envy and skepticism. At the general store, Mrs. Jenkins clutched her apron as she leaned closer to Mrs. Thompson, her neighbor. "I wonder what a wealthy rancher sees in that girl," she remarked, a hint of jealousy threading through her words. "She's just an orphan with nothing to her name." Mrs. Thompson nodded in agreement, both women unable to fathom why such a catch would choose someone like Sarah. Meanwhile, at the saloon, the men gathered around the bar, exchanging exaggerated tales about the new couple. "I hear he swept her off her feet right there on the side of the road." One laughed, causing a ripple of laughter among his friends. They spoke of Dalton's wealth and charm while casting doubtful looks at Sarah's modest appearance. As chatter permeated every corner of town, Sarah began to feel the weight of scrutiny pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Although she was thrilled by her newfound connection with Dalton, she couldn't help but wonder how long this bliss would last under such relentless gossip. Would they ever see her as more than just an orphan? Yet in the carriage beside Dalton, she found solace in his presence. He seemed unfazed by the buzz surrounding them, his confidence radiating like sunlight through clouds. "Let them talk," he said casually, glancing over at Sarah with a reassuring smile. "What matters is what we make of this adventure." As they journeyed further from town into the open prairie, Sarah felt a mixture of exhilaration and uncertainty swirl within her. The vast landscape stretched out before them like a blank canvas filled with endless possibilities waiting to be painted by their choices. With each passing mile, she could sense that this whirlwind romance was not just an escape from grief but a chance to redefine herself amidst all the chatter. An opportunity to transform from a girl lost in sorrow into someone who could embrace life anew alongside Dalton Reed. The stirring excitement in her heart grew stronger as they raced toward an uncertain yet hopeful future together. As the days passed since their impulsive ride through Willow Creek, Sarah found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions. The excitement of her unexpected marriage to Dalton was exhilarating, yet it came with a nagging uncertainty that refused to leave her. She often lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling of their cozy cabin, pondering his true intentions. Did he genuinely care for her, or was she merely a fleeting adventure for him? Every time Dalton looked at her with warmth in his eyes or laughed heartily at something she said, a part of her felt alive again. Yet another part remained cautious, always wondering whether this fairy tale could turn into a nightmare. After all, she had known profound loss only recently. She couldn't afford to become vulnerable once more without knowing where his heart truly lay. During their morning rides across the vast prairie, Sarah often glanced sideways at him as he skillfully guided the horses. He had an effortless charm that drew people in, but sometimes she felt like just another trophy on his arm, an ornament meant to showcase his wealth and status rather than someone he cherished deeply. She recalled the whispers from townsfolk questioning why someone like him would choose an orphan girl as his wife. Their words echoed in her mind like ominous warning bells. One afternoon, as they rested beneath a sprawling oak tree after a long ride, Sarah took a deep breath and decided to confront her feelings head-on. "Dalton," she began hesitantly, searching for the right words. "What do you see when you look at me?" Her voice trembled slightly as she asked. He turned toward her, surprise flickering in his eyes before softening into something thoughtful. "I see someone full of strength despite everything life has thrown your way," he replied sincerely. "You have a fire within you that's inspiring." While his words were sweet balm to her frayed spirit, doubts lingered beneath the surface of her heart. She wanted to believe him but feared being hurt again. Could she truly trust him with her heart? As they sat together under the gentle rustling leaves, Sarah realized that although Dalton had swept her off her feet in a moment of impulsiveness, what mattered now was how they would navigate this journey together. The path ahead was uncertain, but with each moment they spent together, perhaps trust could blossom amidst vulnerability and love could start to take root within her guarded heart. As they traveled deeper into the prairie, the vast landscape unfolded before them, dotted with wildflowers and framed by the endless sky. Each day brought new adventures and opportunities for Sarah to learn more about Dalton. While initially cautious of his bold exterior, she began to see glimpses of a kinder nature that lay beneath his confident demeanor. One sunny afternoon, as they rode side by side, Dalton suddenly reined in the horses at a picturesque spot overlooking a shimmering lake. "I believe this is a perfect place for a picnic," he declared with a grin, jumping down from the carriage. He spread out a blanket on the soft grass and began unpacking a small basket filled with fruits, bread, and cheese. Sarah watched him with growing admiration as he hummed a cheerful tune while arranging their meal. It was in these simple moments that his true character began to shine through. Dalton wasn't just a dashing cowboy, he was thoughtful and attentive, whether he was selecting the ripest apples or carefully pouring her a cup of freshly brewed coffee. As they sat together on the blanket, sharing stories and laughter, Sarah felt her heart slowly opening up to him. She discovered that Dalton had dreams beyond his wealth. He wanted to expand his ranch, support local families, and even help orphans like her find their footing in life. His words stirred something deep within her. She realized that his impulsive choice to claim her as his wife had been more than mere whimsy. It spoke of an underlying generosity and depth she hadn't expected. Yet still, lingering doubts crept into her mind. Could this man truly care for her? Or would he tire of her once the novelty wore off? As Dalton shared tales of his childhood spent working hard on the ranch, she could see the humility woven into his narrative, contrasting sharply with the image of gold-belted rancher that many in town held onto. Through their conversations under the expansive sky, Sarah began to feel more at ease, allowing herself to trust in the connection they shared. The laughter echoed around them like music, a sweet melody she hadn't heard in far too long. In those precious moments by the lake, surrounded by nature's beauty and Dalton's gentle humor, Sarah discovered that perhaps trusting him with her heart might just be worth it after all. As the weeks rolled on, Sarah and Dalton faced a series of challenges that began to test the foundations of their relationship. While moments spent together were filled with laughter and warmth, the whispers from townsfolk cast a shadow over their happiness. Many in Willow Creek remained skeptical about their marriage, questioning the authenticity of a union that had begun so impulsively. One afternoon, while out shopping for supplies in town, Sarah overheard two women gossiping at the general store. "It won't last," one said disdainfully. "He'll grow tired of her soon enough and find a real wife." The words pierced through her like an arrow, triggering insecurities that she had been trying to push aside. Were they right? Would Dalton ever truly see her as an equal instead of just a girl he had swept away from grief? As the days went by, Dalton noticed Sarah's changing demeanor. She seemed more distant, lost in thought during their rides across the open fields and quieter during meals. Concerned, he pulled her aside one evening and expressed his worry. "You've been awfully quiet lately. Is something bothering you?" Taking a deep breath, Sarah hesitated but then shared her fears, her doubts about their relationship, how others viewed them, and her worries about being seen as just another trophy wife rather than as someone who mattered to him. Dalton listened intently, his expression softening as he held her hands firmly in his. "Sarah," he began earnestly, "if I wanted only a pretty face or a trophy at my side, I wouldn't have chosen you." His genuine tone wrapped around her heart like warmth on a chilly day. "I married you because you inspire me every day with your strength and spirit." But even as his reassurances echoed in her heart, personal insecurities lingered uncomfortably within Sarah. Could she truly meet the expectations of being Dalton Reed's wife? The weight of these thoughts often left her feeling fragile amidst the expansive prairie that once felt liberating. In shared moments under starlit skies or during sudden rain showers that drove them closer together for warmth, Sarah learned to let go little by little. Still unsure if she was ready to fully believe in their love, amid the chaos stirred by skeptical townspeople and her own doubts, she recognized that facing these challenges together could be what ultimately defined them. Despite the uncertainties looming ahead, Sarah felt a determination growing within, a desire not just to survive but to flourish alongside Dalton as they navigated the complexities of both their pasts and their future together. As the seasons changed, Sarah and Dalton found themselves immersed in shared adventures that deepened their bond and ignited a spark of hope within her. They explored the vast prairie, riding together across open fields where the wind carried away her worries and laughter echoed in the air. Each new experience brought a sense of joy that she had thought lost forever. One crisp autumn day, they decided to venture into the nearby mountains for a weekend getaway. The vibrant colors of the changing leaves painted a breathtaking backdrop as they hiked along winding trails. During their journey, they paused to admire the stunning views, and Sarah felt a sense of freedom wash over her. As they sat on a rock overlooking a valley bursting with color, Dalton turned to her with a smile that melted away her lingering fears. "Isn't it beautiful?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Just like you." The compliment sent butterflies fluttering in her stomach, and she couldn't help but grin. "I could get used to this," she said, feeling the warmth of his gaze envelop her like a comforting blanket. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and stars began to twinkle in the sky, they shared heartfelt conversations around a crackling campfire. Dalton opened up about his dreams for the future, not just for his ranch, but for them as a couple. He spoke of wanting to create a home filled with laughter and love where they could support each other's aspirations. "I want us to build something special together, Sarah," he said earnestly. "You inspire me every day to be better, to dream bigger." His words struck a chord deep within her, and for the first time since their whirlwind romance began, Sarah envisioned a future filled with love and possibility. She realized that they were not just two people thrown together by circumstance, they were partners embarking on an incredible journey. With each shared sunset and every laugh exchanged under the stars, Sarah's heart began to heal from its past wounds. Dalton's presence reassured her that love wasn't just an illusion, it was real and worth pursuing. She felt herself transforming from a girl burdened by grief into a woman ready to embrace life's adventures. As they cuddled under the blanket of stars that night, Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself to dream of a future filled not only with hope but with love, a love that was blossoming between them, stronger than any doubts that once held her back. As autumn settled into Willow Creek, Sarah found herself at a crossroads, a moment that would define her future. The vibrant colors of the leaves mirrored the turmoil within her heart, caught between the familiar ache of her past and the promise of a new beginning with Dalton. One crisp evening, while they strolled through a grove adorned with golden foliage, Sarah's mind drifted back to her life before Dalton, a life filled with loss, sorrow, and uncertainty. The town had always felt like a cage, a reminder of what she had lost. Yet here she was, with a man who wanted to build a future together. But could she truly leave behind her old life and all the memories that came with it? "Are you all right?" Dalton asked, noticing her contemplative silence. He stopped and turned to face her, concern etched on his handsome features. I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I feel like I should return to Willow Creek and what I once knew. It's familiar, even if it's painful." He stepped closer, taking her hands in his, grounding her in the moment. "Sarah, I understand how hard it is to let go of the past. But think about what we've built together. You don't have to carry that weight alone anymore." His words resonated deep within her. Dalton had shared his dreams with her, dreams of love, laughter, and a home filled with warmth. The thought of building that life together was intoxicating, yet daunting. What if she failed him? What if she couldn't step into the role he envisioned for them? As the wind rustled through the trees and leaves danced around them, Sarah realized this moment was more than just a choice, it was an opportunity for growth. The fear that had tethered her to her past began to dissolve as she looked into Dalton's eyes, sensing the depth of his commitment. "I want to embrace this new beginning," Sarah declared softly, her heart swelling with newfound courage. "I want to be part of your dreams, to create something beautiful together." Dalton's face broke into a radiant smile, relief washing over him. "Then let's do it together," he said firmly. "We'll face every challenge side by side." In that defining moment beneath the golden canopy of autumn leaves, Sarah understood that moving forward meant not only leaving behind her old life but also embracing the love and hope that lay ahead. With Dalton by her side, she felt ready to step into a future where joy and possibility awaited them both. In the brisk air of late autumn, Sarah and Dalton stood atop a hill overlooking the valley where they had spent many cherished moments together. The beauty of the scenery before them was breathtaking, but it paled in comparison to what was blooming within Sarah's heart. The journey since they first met had been fraught with challenges, but now she felt a sense of peace and hope enveloping her like a warm embrace. As they gazed into the horizon painted with shades of orange and purple, Dalton turned to Sarah, his expression earnest. "You've come so far since we first met," he said, admiration shining in his eyes. "I've watched you grow stronger every day." His words resonated with her. She had risen from the depths of despair to a place where love and joy felt not only possible but vibrant. She thought back to the girl who sat by the roadside, lost in sorrow and grief, and marveled at how far she had come. With each shared adventure, every heartfelt conversation, and even through the skeptics in town, she had learned that love could bloom even in the darkest times. "I couldn't have done it without you," Sarah replied softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "You showed me that it's okay to dream again." Dalton stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "And I will always be here to support you and cherish our dreams together." As they stood there, hand in hand against the cool wind, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She realized that love was not simply about fairy tales, it was about resilience, patience, and commitment through life's trials. "I choose this life with you, Dalton," she declared, a confident smile breaking across her face. "I want to build our story together, the good and the bad." His smile widened as relief washed over him. "Then let's make it a beautiful one." In that defining moment, surrounded by nature's splendor and the comfort of each other's presence, Sarah understood that their journey was just beginning. Love had blossomed amidst her deepest fears, and now it radiated brightly in her heart. With Dalton by her side, she was ready to embrace a future filled with promise, laughter, and unconditional love, a life where hope thrived even in the face of adversity. As they stood on the hilltop together, they knew they could face whatever came their way, hand in hand, forever united in their shared dreams.